Right. Okay, so we've been chit-chatting here with Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, and he's wrestling with a lot of this man's questions quite nicely. And the questioner last said, many teachers have I followed and studied many doctrines, yet none gave me what I wanted. Right. And the Maharaj says the desire to find the self will be surely fulfilled, provided you want nothing else. Right. You can take everything that we just finished talking about and understand what he says here. The result of not wanting anything else is going to be withdrawing yourself as a thought of yourself from the world of thought and becoming the present observer, just present and observing, and allowing the moment to inform you with what's in front of you. You don't have to plan, you don't have to think or worry. And in that state, there is nothing else to want. There is nothing else to do in that state, because you're just being, and you're fine. Everything is beautiful. But you must be honest with yourself and really want nothing else, right? So it's a fundamental state. Part of our trouble is that this thought of ourself is very fundamental, and I imagine, well, I don't know how it happens or how long it's been going on, but probably most of us have got stacks of thought about ourselves that we're rummaging around the world with. And we it's like trying to dig to the bottom of the beach is what it feels like, right? We keep pushing all this sand away and it just keeps falling back in, and we keep pushing it away, and little by little we get somewhere. But where are we trying to get? Because we're only working with thoughts. We're not understanding that the person digging is the problem, not the digging, not the reaching the bottom of the beach. That's just an imaginary thing that we've invented because of all the relationships that we've imagined about this thought body in the world of thought, which is the sand that's rushing in there. We and so to want nothing, it means to stop thinking that you've got something to do or something to act or something to say or something to add or something to change in the world of thought. It's not necessary. Be, and everything will unfold. But we've just got so much baggage that we just move from one thought of ourselves to another thought of ourselves. That's what happened when I became a monk. It's like I thought of myself as this in the world and defined myself that way. And then I took on the robes, and then I thought of myself in this world and acted this way, right? And was always wandering around trying to be a monk, right? Trying to do all of that stuff. And that's very difficult when you've never been a monk, when you don't know what a monk is. To go ahead and be a monk is quite exhausting, as is being anything, right? Being anything is exhausting because it's a constant juggle. I remember seeing on the Merv Griffin. Anybody remember Merv Griffin? I remember he had a variety show on television when I was, less than a teenager. I only remember it because he had this Chinese woman on who had she had these long dowels that were probably like 3 or 4 feet long, and she would put a white plate on the top of it and start spinning the dowel, and the plate would spin on the top and balance by itself, and she put that into a rack, and she would do another one and put it up there, and then she'd go and adjust the first one and keep them all spinning. And at the end, she had like 20 plates spinning on 20 dowels. And wow, was she busy, running back and forth and keeping all those plates in the air. That's what makes you tired. That's what's exhausting you during your day, is keeping your 20 plates of attributes interacting and staying alive, as a sense of yourself, of what you are and who you are, and always remembering that all of them have to be maintained, because they're imaginary, and you have to go and keep them all active in your mind And we're so busy with that. So he's saying, don't be afraid. Withdraw from all of it. Let all the plates fall. It doesn't matter. It was a show. It was for fun. Nobody's going to yell at you because the plates broke. Yes, lots of thoughts are going to murmur out there about the thought of you and the thought of the plates, but that's just going to happen once. And then you'll be silent. You'll be free. And you can be present then. And, things happen as necessary. If effort, like Sri Nisargadatta has told us in a previous chapter, if action is necessary, action will arise. If effort is necessary, effort will arise. All of these things arise in the moment. And if you're just being and not being you, see the difference, just being, not being you, then you'll naturally be authentic. You'll naturally say the right thing, because the you of just being is a you that's informed only by love and wisdom, by things that already exist, not manufactured personality, not manufactured perception of self as successful, unsuccessful, as gay, straight, male, female, American, Indian, huge, little, good shape, bad shape, beautiful, ugly. None of those things are what you are. Those are all thoughts about yourself. They're plates on top of dowels that you're spinning and having to use to perform for this whole room of disturbed thoughts. Which okay, that's why Thakur is not angry about it. He's just like, all right, go ahead, but you don't have to. And that's really what your permission is. That's what the love of mother is whispering in your ear. It's like, yeah, if you think that way and you act according to what you're thinking about yourself and what you're remembering about yourself and what you're hoping about yourself, it's horribly confusing and horribly painful and horribly unnatural for you. And as long as you insist on it, well, yes, my darling, I'm sorry. That's what happens. Stop hitting yourself with a hammer and it will stop hurting. So he says the desire to find oneself will surely be fulfilled, because that's what we are eventually, right? Eventually. Who knows how long. I'm amazed that mother waited till the morning to kind of show me why that was such a weird experience last night. But in actuality, I've probably been waiting a million years, right? Because I've been playing last night in my life forever. And just now in the progression, I'm upset because she waited from last night, but yes, because I just put a boundary from last night to this morning. But in actuality, this is something we've been trying to see about ourselves for a very, very long time. And we simply couldn't, because we can't accept it. We won't accept it. We don't want those plates to fall, right? We just we're stuck. So you must be honest with yourself and really want nothing else, which means you really do have to do the discernment. You have to realize, and the discernment is what brings us to that point of realizing that this is a world of thought, right? It's that whole notion of what we've been talking about, of sitting on the edge of your bed in the morning and reminding yourself, this is the dream of the beloved that I'm observing here, and touching the things around you, touch your bed, touch your body, and remind yourself, this is in a dream. So by necessity, this is dream stuff. This isn't a body. This isn't a bed. This isn't metal. That's not wood. That's not water. That's not fire. This is all made of mind stuff, dream stuff, which in actuality is Brahman manifesting as anything that you want it to manifest as. That's how dreams are created. And that's what we're living in. And so we have to do that discernment. We have to sit, remind ourselves every day, this is a world of thought, right? Because until we accept that, we're going to think there's something out there. We're going to go looking in it to find something, whatever it is we imagine that we need, whatever hunger we've imagined we have. And in that process, it just gets more and more complex. And so we have to undo that, because you have to really get a good concept of what it means to be a thought of yourself as opposed to being. We have to really think about that before we can know what it means to be in the shrine, right? And once we know what it means to be in the shrine and what it means to be in the presence, as lover or as beloved or as friend or however you're going to sit there with the beloved, it doesn't matter. As long as you're sitting there with the beloved, you're going to be in the shrine in the right place. Let go of the things you know to be unreal. Thakur gives us the hint, anything that's changing is just a thought, because reality doesn't change. Reality is the absolute unchanging. It's the shrine, that beautiful safety of infinity and immortality that you reside in when you touch the shrine. You may not know that at first. That also comes little piece by well, it comes whenever mother's in the mood, I guess, what to say. So yes, don't be frustrated, because there's a lot of stuff that we have to discern through. We've really convinced ourselves of a lot of things that are stacked on top of each other, and you can't get to the third row down until you've taken care of what's sitting on top of it. So be patient, keep discerning, keep coming back to the presence, and continue to see, okay, this is all a symbol. It's not a meaningless symbol. It's a symbol that the more love you begin to experience and the more love you begin to see around you is an indicator that you're getting closer and closer to you. Right? The more peace that you begin to experience, the more peace that you begin to see in the world, the closer you're getting to the you, right? And eventually those become bigger, that sense of peace, that sense of love, that sense of knowing, that comfort in knowing that you don't have to figure it all out. The moment will unfold itself. You don't have to affect it and change it and manipulate it. Then we begin to find this space. We begin to get comfortable with this space, and soon that space becomes bigger than this fluctuating world out here, this constant change. And the world of constant change becomes manageable because you're not managing it. It's just a display of the love of God in all of its possible machinations, and that's what you're observing. That's what you're watching. And if you're sitting in that space with your thought of yourself removed, just being in the moment, that is freedom. That's enlightenment, because you're not bound by all the lines of relationship that we draw when we have a thought of ourselves in the world of thoughts, that we draw to everything else around us, that bind us to that only one point of perspective. And that's why we become selfish and afraid and small, and all of those pokes that mother's giving you on the spot to say, hey, get back over here. What are you doing over there? You silly toddler, come over here. Right? So if in the meantime you want many other things and are engaged in their pursuit, your main purpose may be delayed until you grow wiser and cease being torn between these contradictory urges. Go within, without swerving, without ever looking outward, right? So, and that's the solution. And we'll start going inward, and we'll start not to swerve, and then we'll grab a familiar thought of ourselves and get into a familiar situation that we remember and get that reinforced by that. And then we remember what we're doing. Oh yeah, I was going to get that because I needed or wanted that. And then we're back in the game again. We're still running. So go within without swerving, without ever looking outward initially. Just go in. Don't look outward until you have found the shrine and have found the presence, or able to sit there not forgetting your beloved sitting there holding your hand or hugging you, or however you want to be. I like to think of, sitting under a tree in a meadow by a little stream. And the questioner says, but my desires and fears are still there. No, they're really not. But you haven't put them down. You've put them down, and you're like, you've kept them there, and you've kept an awareness of them there because I might want those later. And so this is a big trick. This is a big trick in my in my quest for self-control, trying to control the body, at first, the feeling is that you're renouncing and the body still wants these things, right? But the body only wants these things because you're still putting your attention on those things. And so that imagine that memory of what those things, the fun or the pleasantness or the pleasure that was coming from those things before, that's what's nagging you. It's you have set your desires down, yes. You're trying to renounce, yes, but you haven't forgotten them. You haven't let them go. You've put them down until later. And when that nagging memory starts coming, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you get overcome, because your thoughts return to your desires. They return to your pleasures. And you think they're still there and you're waiting for them to go away, when actually there's nothing there. You just have to stop going there, stop imagining it, stop thinking about that, and put your attention somewhere else. And I was thinking about that. Mother also was kind of showing me. She said, when you put your attention here, that's like when the Roomba finds its charging station, right? And it goes to the charging station and just sits there until the next time it's supposed to go vacuum. When you put your attention here, then you're home. You're where you are. It clicks into the home base. And so always become aware of where your attention is. And one way to do that is sit there and pay attention to the book on the table. Once you've got yourself locked on that, keeping your attention on that book on the table, look at what it feels like. That attention is outside of yourself. It's a very distinct feeling. It's a very experienceable feeling. And it's not a comfortable feeling if you even once put that attention in the Roomba port. Probably Shrine of the Heart is better to talk about than the Roomba port, but there you are. So bring it back to the Shrine of the Heart and move your attention from there to the heart, and then look at something else. Put your attention there, get a really good feeling of what it is to have your attention on something. Normally we're flitting it all over the place. So I was imagining my attention as when you wash dishes, they have these little like nylon cloth things that they've sort of tied into a flower-like ball, and you can use those to wash dishes. For some reason, when Mother was kind of giving me this example this morning in the shrine, she said, see your attention. This is what it looks like. And it was like a white ball of this nylon material. And she says, now imagine, just set this material on the stairs. Okay, your attention now is on the stairs. And just see that this white ball is your attention. It's always one point. And you can set it anywhere out there. And so she had me look around. I've called all this is in my mind. Don't think anything beyond that. So all this in my mind was setting this attention on all these different things and getting the feeling of what it was to have my attention outside of myself. And then she said, now put the attention here. See the difference? See the difference. Put the attention here. And she says, now keep the attention here and just look at all of the things that you had placed it on at once. That's knowing. That's knowledge. It's non-relational. It's not a thought about yourself. It's a being, and opening up the window of the senses beyond a point of attention. Let everything be in your attention, and just be present in that. And if you do that, everything happens naturally. Everything happens without effort. You're no longer resisting, and you're no longer trying to maintain a thought of yourself with its needs and its desires and its stories and its circumstance. It's not in a circumstance. It's not in a story. It's free. It's you and me. It's you and me. So, but my desires and fears are still there. And so that's what prompted all this idea of not being able to set things down. We just put them aside for a moment. That's why we need what Tucker calls a grand renunciation, where you don't just set it down with the idea of, I might want that later, but you actually set it down and then forget where you put it. You just move, you just let go completely so that this problem doesn't exist. And Maharaj says, well, where are they? But in your memory, right? Where are they? These were just thoughts that you were paying attention to, that you were in relationship with. When you let go of them, they don't go anywhere. They disappear. They fall out of mind. They're not there anymore. So where are they? But in your memory. Realize that their root is in expectation, born of memory, right? So you think about that pleasure that you've gotten from your body, and then then that expectation, that desire arises to form an action, to go get it, right? To go back and pick up the thing you had put down. And then you reinforce the memory, and you've stepped out of the shrine, and now you're stuck again. Realize that their root is in expectation born of memory, and they will cease to obsess you, right? Realize that their root is in expectation born of memory. Say to yourself, become aware in that moment. Watch where your attention is. When you feel a desire, first thing, look for the white fluffy thing, your attention. Where did I set that? Where have I set my attention? And that will explain why you're having a desire. That will show you, that's the memory I'm sitting on. Look at that, right? And it's looping because the attention's sitting on it. Well, remove your attention from it. Pull your attention off of it, knowing that it's causing the desire. It's causing this need to act, or this need to dive into the mind, dive into the thought of being rather than to be. So he gives us that right there. If we could just manage that one sentence, I'm pretty sure that we'd be free, that we wouldn't be related anymore to everything around us other than as part of ourself, part of the experience of just is, of being. Right? Where are they? But in your memory. Realize that their root is in expectation born of memory, and they will cease to obsess you. It's not because the object itself is real and is calling you, or because you need it. It's because you're remembering it, and you're remembering a thing of the past, what you imagined to have gotten, which you couldn't have gotten because you wouldn't be looking for it again if you had gotten it the last time. Stop that, and the obsession goes away, right? But don't just have your attention disappear. Take your attention off that object and put your attention back in the Rumba port, back in the shrine of the heart, with the Divine Mother, with the Divine Beloved, with Buddha, Rama, Krishna, Jesus, Holy Mother, the ultimate reality, whoever you want to spend your time with. Where are they but in your memory? Realize these. Okay, the questioner says, well, I've understood very well that social service is an endless task. Okay, I'm not sure how he jumps there all of a sudden, but there we are. So, oops, my computer has now locked up. Okay. I've understood very well that social service is an endless task. Okay, not just social service, any desire. Any desire to do of any kind is an endless task. Why? Because you're not getting anything. You're just completing a thought loop, right? And unless that thought loop is continually running, you never have what you think you have. So I've understood very, very well that social service is an endless task because improvement and decay, progress and regress go side by side. We can see it on all sides and on every level. What remains, right? And he says here, why can't I scroll? I'm sorry, my computer has completely decided to go the way of all computers. Let's see. So I've understood these things. Maharaj says, whatever work you have undertaken, complete it. All right, so whatever work you're in the middle of, whatever process you're in the middle of right now, finish it. Whatever work you have undertaken, complete it. Do not take up new tasks. All right. don't imagine that anything else has to be done. So because we have to get the waves to still a little bit, we have to get some sense of being in order for this to become clear. As long as we're involved in tasks and we've got our attention in midstream on numbers of different things, it's not here, it's there. Right? So finish your task and don't come up with a new one. Do not take up new tasks unless it is called for by a concrete situation of suffering or relief from suffering. Okay, in the moment, right? So bring it right back to the moment, and the only thing that moves you is for the relief of suffering. And that is only happening by a concrete need for it in the moment. Otherwise, nothing will happen. You just stay, right? Find yourself first. Become familiar with what it feels like to be in the presence, to be in the shrine. Feel it deeply. Put your attention in the heart. Know the presence of the mother. Let all that love that inspires be the real thing, right? Let the love that you feel be the real thing. Sit in the middle of that and get a wonderful feeling of what that is, because that is a very low volume of what you actually are, right? And get used to that feeling and become established there. That's what we're trying to do, so that thoughts don't pull us out, right? So that thoughts of any kind don't pull us out of there. We just sit there in that dense atmosphere of love. Find yourself first, and endless blessings will follow. This, I feel like in my life, I'm getting a little bit of this. I'm not claiming to be any of those things, but I just feel like the last 2 years have just been one blessing, one amazing, oh my God, that really happened, after another. Because you're no longer frantically trying to maintain this thought of self in its relationships with everything else. And you're no longer trying to manipulate thought in order to become reality or be reality. You're sitting in a reality which is separate from all of it, and just watching it, content in the love of your beloved, content in the moment, because you are spirit, and love is enough for you. If you're feeling love and the body starves to death, it's a shrug. Who cares? Because you are yourself. If you're feeling loved, if you're feeling love, as your reality, and you're cold, so what? Because love is the one most important thing. All religion teaches us that. All of our songs sing that song to us. All of our poetry is about that. All of our novels are about that. Love is the one most important thing. Get that, live in that, and everything else will find its place. If there's suffering, what is necessary will arise in the moment, because that's the nature of what we're living in, right? But if you try and take all of the mistakes that we've mentioned, it becomes a frantic spinning of plates on the ends of dowels. He says, find yourself first and endless blessings will follow. Nothing profits the world as much as the abandoning of profits. that idea of gaining, that idea of getting, right? Of attaining, of reaching. He says, nothing profits the world more as much as the abandoning of profits, to stop trying to go out and take for yourself, take for your maintenance, take for your ideas, take for your hopes, take for your dreams. The higher your stack of the thought of you, the more attributes you've placed on that stack, standing on the top of it, the more desires you can see from up there. Right? So if you come up with all these delusions about yourself and you stand up on top of all of them, the world is full of desires. You need everything. Oh my gosh, because you do. You are everything. And now that you've separated yourself from everything, you need everything. You feel a desire for everything. Oh my God, you always need more money. You always need more money. I used to watch in the 90s when the race for the richest man in the world was going back and forth between Bill Gates and Larry Ellison. And I was kind of amused with it at the time, because at the time, both of them were worth 100 billion plus each. And I couldn't imagine what was making them go to work and be so competitive and push their agendas so much. I'm like, well, what are you still looking for? I mean, what is it that you're still reaching for? After you get $100 billion, what's going on at that level? And I would see that depending on the stock market that day, that Larry Ellison would be on top. And I would always know in my mind, back of my mind, God, I bet that really bothers Bill. He's not the top anymore. He's got to work harder today to get his stock up. And then it would flip. And then I would think, oh, I bet Larry's upset about that. Right? Because at that level, you understand that competition is utterly meaningless. But they're standing on a stack of $100 billion. And what can they see from up there? A world of desires. I have to be number one. Well, number one is never forever. Right? No matter what it is. So nothing profits the world more than abandoning profits. So if you really want to serve the world, if you really want to be an activist, go inside and be an activist. Undo your desires. Stop buying and needing the things that are causing the pollution that you're so concerned about. Stop needing and buying and collecting the things that are using up the resources that you're so concerned about. Stop indirectly being the cause of nations going to war over minerals, going to war over trade wars. All of these things happen at this level here. When you've got a whole bunch of this level here happening in a whole bunch of people, war happens. You can't do anything about that war except pull yourself out of the cause of that war by being content in the moment and allowing this wonderful thing that you are, if we're going to call it a thing and give it an existence, this wonderful thing that you are will naturally alleviate suffering to the degree of the power that's been given you to alleviate suffering. That may be just for you. Some of us, that's all we can do in this life, is just eliminate our suffering and not add to the suffering of others. If you're faithful in little, though, in the Bible, it says if you're faithful in little, you'll be faithful in much, which means the mother will then put you in a place where you can affect a bigger ripple, of this love, of this alleviation of suffering. And then she may place you in a position one time where your acts of love are affecting thousands of people. But for now, be content. That which Mother is placing in your reality in this moment. The other day I was giving a class and somebody was very concerned about, how am I supposed to be able to love somebody who's a pedophile? And I asked her, I said, well, is there a pedophile in the room with you right now? And she says, no. And I said, well, then you're not responsible to love a pedophile. Who's in the room with you right now? She says, nobody. I said, well, then you're responsible for loving yourself right now. Learn to love yourself. And when you've learned to love yourself, Mother will put another person in the room. And now that person is your opportunity to worship, and you can love. And then she might put a pedophile in your room at some point. And at that point, just know she put that person in your room because she believes that you know how to love them. And then you live with that. And we go forward. So come back to the world that you live in, right? Right now, we've talked about this in the past. Right now, the media is designed to keep us distracted by what's happening in the Ukraine or what's happening in Israel. We become infinitely aware of all those details, and we don't know who our local council members are. We don't know what they're voting on this morning. We don't know what's happening locally, when that's what Mother has given you the ability to affect. That's the world that Mother has given you to manifest love in. And if you keep your mind distracted by these huge things out there, all that's going to happen is you're going to get angrier and angrier and more frustrated. And that anger and frustration is going to turn into hatred and prejudice and fear. And then you'll be in the state of the whole country, which right now is dying of anger and fear and hunger, because we have been chasing lust and greed for a very long time and getting very good at acquiring it in this country, right? And it's because we've lost ourselves. We've lost ourselves. We don't live in the world that we're in. We live in an imagined world that we can't affect and change because it's bigger than we, way bigger than we are. So bring it down to your block. You want to be loved. You want the world to be beautiful. Make sure that your relationship with your neighbor is beautiful. You know, somebody moves in across the street, go and welcome them like we used to in the old days. You know, take them a little package and say, welcome to the neighborhood. If you guys need anything, if you need your fish fed when you're out of town, I'm your man. I'm your woman. Let's do it. Right? Create love in the world that Mother has given you to the degree that Mother has given you. And this brings us down. It reduces our stack of spinning plates, you know, brings us down to one or two plates that we can manage. And we work there. And then we bring it down to where we realize, gosh, all of this is. And I'm just an isness also, but I'm the isness of love. And pretty soon Mother starts working through you. Mother starts taking care of your neighbors. She starts making you aware of things naturally. You don't have to become a nice person. You simply realize, I've always been the nicest person. And you allow yourself to be a nice person. Right? You allow yourself to go to your neighbor, even though the ego is shy, right? Even though the thought of yourself is embarrassed. But that's not you. You are not a thought of yourself. You are the self. And that nature is love, and it alleviates suffering everywhere, right? So nothing profits the world as much as abandoning of profits. A man who no longer thinks in terms of loss and gain is truly the non-violent man, for he is beyond conflict, right? So if you don't see yourself needing something outside of yourself, then you're not going to take it from someone else, right? And the ripple isn't going to get bigger and go out from you. So he's saying the person who no longer thinks in terms of loss and gain, understands that they're living in a world of thoughts and there's nothing to lose and nothing to gain, that it's all just thoughts of the self that get decorated by more thoughts of the self, thoughts of money, thoughts of big houses, thoughts of big cars, thoughts of whatever it is you're running after. But in the end, you're going to sit alone on the edge of your bed at night wondering why you're not fulfilled, wondering, gosh, what's going on? It's because you're chasing thoughts with a thought of yourself. Be, and let your fulfillment be a byproduct of being. That's where it comes from. Not from getting or attaining or grabbing, not from accomplishment. Your fulfillment comes as a byproduct of being true to your nature, being true to love, being true to wisdom, right? So we try and live in that space. And the questioner says, yes, I was always attracted by the idea of ahimsa, of nonviolence, right? Maharaj says, well, primarily ahimsa means what it says, don't hurt. That's what ahimsa is, don't hurt, nonviolence, don't hurt. It is not doing good that comes first, but ceasing to hurt, right? We can't do good to the world until we stop taking from the world, right? So he says, not adding to suffering. Pleasing others is not ahimsa, right? So it's not about going out pleasing others. That's what happens. We please others. Why? Because we're actually just adding to another thought of ourselves, the thought that I'm a nice person and I'm nonviolent, right? So we've added another thought to ourselves. You think this is what I am, right? Move that out of the way, realize you need nothing, and then you're at a 0 point where all of your alleviation of suffering counts because you're not countering it by needing and taking something from somewhere else. He says, I'm not talking about pleasing, but I am all for helping others. And Maharaj says something very very appropriate here. The only help worth giving is freeing from the need for further help. Repeated help is no help at all, right? It makes that person subservient to you. If you're continually having to give, they are continually in a place of no power, and you are continually in the place of power. And what's going to happen? they're going to get resentful and you're going to become arrogant. You're going to start thinking about the fact, oh, they're not really appreciating me enough. I've given them so much, so consistently for so long. I've been such a good person. And they're not responding right. I'm not going to give to them anymore, right? So continually helping is not any help at all. Giving them freedom from the need of help is the only help that you can give, right? And he's going to tell us here, because our questioner says, oh, well, let's finish. Repeated help is no help at all. Do not talk of helping another unless you can put him beyond all need of help, right? So stop with the delusion. Unless you can really give them something that sets them free from the need to get more help, stop pretending. You're playing an ego game there, putting on more and more eyeshadow or whatever. So the questioner says, well, how does one go beyond the need of help? And can one help another to do so? Maharaj, and this is where we'll stop with this one here. He says, when you have understood that all existence in separation and limitation is painful, right? As long as you're seeing yourself something separate and apart from the whole, there's going to be pain because you're out of balance. You're not being. You're going to be always getting or remembering. And when you are willing and able to live integrally in oneness with all of life, right? And that is what Mother's saying. Sit in the shrine and see all the things of attention at once. Don't place your attention on any one of them. Your attention is here in the shrine. And with your attention here in the shrine, allow everything to be in an integrated oneness out there. You're not more interested and less interested in anything, right? Because it's painful otherwise. When you are willing and able to live integrally in oneness with all life as pure being, right? Pure being means pure, always means no me, mine, no thought of self, just being, right? In oneness with all life as pure being, you have gone beyond all need of help. You can help another by precept and example, and above all, by your being. Why? Because your being will always do the right thing, because it will be always grounded in love and wisdom. When you are acting as a thought of yourself, it will always come from the thought of yourself, which is fundamentally egoism, right? Fundamentally selfish, because it will still be about yourself, right? But in being, there is no thought of myself. There's simply presence. I'm here. I'm available. Here and now, here and now, here and now, here and now. I'm aware of everything going on in this room. I have no preferences about it, but if I see suffering, if I see a need of self, love, that's what I do. That's where I'm attracted to. That's what will happen. Right? You can help another by precept and example, and above all, by your being. You cannot give what you do not have. So if you are not content and in the place of fulfillment, how will you be able to give contentment and fulfillment to somebody else? If you have not a storehouse, or are not aware of the storehouse of love within you, and that is not your experience of the moment, then how can you give that to somebody else? You cannot give what you do not have, and you don't have what you are not. You can only give what you are. And of that, you can give limitlessly. And what are you? You are the love that every song, every poem, every book, every story, every relationship is seeking in this world. You are that. And that's what you can give without limit. You will never run out of love, because you are infinite. You are love itself. And if you can remove the thought of yourself from the mind that you live in, that will express in every direction equally, without causing an imbalance. And that is where you'll find your fulfillment. That is where you'll discover your freedom. It's already there. It's not a matter of getting, it's a matter of not running anywhere else, not believing anything else, and believe nothing else, and what you're left with is love. right? Think nothing else, and what you're left with is wisdom. So this is this morning's, whatever it was, conversation. All right, let me turn off the